It's going to be the package from China and maybe the ultimate one. If there was one handheld got a lot of hate, the Miyoo Flip was one of those. With the first generation had a lot of problems. It's quite unfortunate, but I think it was a missed opportunity. So if you're going to be looking at the box, yeah, you can actually do all kinds of crazy stuff that we have seen before, even having a music player. So over here we have the Miyoo Flip, comes the Cortex A55, 1.8 gigahertz, and I think one of the coolest things is that this thing has a resolution of 640 by 480, something we do see very often nowadays. Only 1 gigabyte of RAM, so the Linux, that is something that is an improved version now, because this thing does actually contains the one that has improved software. So with the improved software they did a little bit of an optimizing, but the question of course remains, is this going to be more than enough? Another question is the hinge problem fixed? So that is something time will tell. So one of the things I did notice with this particular device is that the click, you know, I do wonder is like what actually broke, but you know, this is a one really sturdy screen, and of course I can do this for like 10 minutes or whatever, but you know, it doesn't make any sense. Let's remove the screen protector. You can actually see that the display is quite glossy when it comes to that. So the overall design, 2 joysticks, and I must say that they are like really tiny, so it's not going to be the one I'm going to be liking a lot. So when it comes to the buttons and everything, it's quite flat of a design. Of course, of the clamshell design, it needs to be perfectly close. However, I must say that when you're going to be looking at this, the overall micro switch feel, I personally really love it. The M button for getting into the menu, select and start. Over here we're going to be having a USB-C, headphone jack out. Over there we're going to be having slot for the micro SD card, left and right, on and off switch, the LED for indication that's powered on, volume control, and then we're having the, I want to say shoulder buttons or the top buttons. And what is kind of cool, that it does have like a little bit of a different height difference if I'm going to be holding it like that. It's going to be, let's say, okay, comfortable to actually enjoy and play. Or I must say that the side buttons, like with the original SP, always I'm struggling getting into the back. So for me, this is not going to be a handheld. I'm going to be enjoying for utilizing all of the back buttons. Not at all. And of course we don't have the USB-C again, and we do have an HDMI connection, and I think that's one of the cool features. But turning it on, you can actually see it automatically shuts down the display itself. But let's take a close look at the menu itself. And what can you do? Is it any better, or is it any good, or is it going to be really shitty? So let's do a quick overview of the menu itself. Power it on, so at the left we're going to be having recent, favorite, games, collections, moving the app, settings, and that's actually it. So I think one of the cool things was the apps, what I understand of, where they did a lot of adding new kinds of applications. I do wonder, let me know in the comments if people are actually using this thing for just for ebook reading. I do wonder when it comes to that. However, you can see there's a lot of stuff going on over here, but we're going to be focusing on some other stuff like settings, that the brightness, and the display is quite bright when it comes to that. LCD frequency can be changed out, Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, the color, language, calibration, even background music can be changed, theme, use the emulation station itself. So if you're going to be booting up, you can just use the emulation by default. But let's take a close look at the games. Amiga, Amstrad, and there is a lot of stuff you can play. However, with the power of this, I think this one is going to be one of those handhelds that's going to be fun for just basic gaming. I'll do up to PlayStation without any problem whatsoever. Of course, on native resolution. But, you know, it's kind of cool that they try to implement more different kind of systems, so we're going to be checking them out. And yeah, when it comes to this, you know, there's a lot of cool stuff that we can play. But is this something you should consider? That is going to be finding out today, because I'm really curious when it comes to, let's say, the overall emulation performance. But another thing I want to do is do a quick side-by-side when it comes to the other model I've reviewed. But out of the box, if you're going to be doing side-by-side comparison with the original Flip at the right side, and then of course the left side with the brand new OS, or at least the new optimized firmware. So yeah, there were some differences, of course, key differences when it comes to, let's say, the apps and everything else. So in here we do have all kinds of similarities, but you know, there are some things that they actually changed out. So in here we're having the settings, we're having like side by side, you can actually see that there are some similarities, so there's nothing much changed over there. So let's go to the games. Then here we're having RetroArch that is not on this one anymore. We're just going to be having games. So here you can just see that also here they did some optimization with everything is going to be changed out with overall better, let's say, configuration of emulators and everything else. But in the end, there are like some, let's say, videos out there that did an in-depth about the new OS, and some of them were not like super excited. There were new things, but in the end, it was like a minor improvement. But I think if you're going to be picking up one of these devices, yeah, it's, if you need to choose, you can always get yourself like the optimized version like this. But I think they're offering both of the different editions. Nevertheless, let's try a couple of games and let's say how the overall emulation performance is. So one of the features I love is that it automatically returns into the game itself, where you less basically played. So another thing I think is absolutely a cool feature is the D-pad micro switched. So I am a big fan of it, and the reason why, because it's so fast and it's so responsive, and I think making this thing super convenient for playing some fighting games. So the overall configuration of this particular device is absolutely better. We can even make a quick load, quick save if you want to. That part works all fine. Let's continue. And if you're going to be loading back, super easy. And it will even mess around if you want to have like net play. You can even connect two of these devices together. However, out of the box, yeah, for MAME this is going to be great. Of course, with the limitations that we have seen before, like with Killer Instinct and Tekken MAME. But beside that, we can play all kinds of different systems. But let's do a little bit of overview on just some old school games like Game Boy, because that is going to be absolutely a lot of fun. And for me, I think is where these, let's say, devices really shine. If you can, let's just say, play these old school games that we played so many times. They even implement some filter that looks, I don't know, I can even pick it up, but that looks absolutely awesome. Where we can just play Game Boy in so many devices. I think it gives a little bit of nostalgia touch with this very cool clamshell design. But if you're going to be playing some Game Boy Advance, of course, it's going to be automatically like squeezed into a certain resolution, because this original screen was slightly different. You already noticed that like with the begin screen we do have like two tiny black bars to forcing it in the right overall aspect ratio. I think it's not like a bad thing. But also this Game Boy Advance part runs absolutely great. But another thing I just really wonder is that how will it actually work when it comes to playing some old school Sega Genesis games. Let's go with the old school retro flow, because so let's see what's going on with this. Pure satisfaction. No way things going on with the audio. And there's another thing I love about this D-pad, not about only when fighting games. Like, for example, if you're going to be doing the fire fist up from the ground, it's so much easier to do that with, like, say, a micro switch D-pad. Another thing I also like beside the micro switch is the floating D-pad. That's another favorite of one of mine. But this thing, yeah, I can really enjoy myself playing this. And I think when it comes to playing these games, this is absolutely the way to play if you just want to play some old school games like I love to do. So another thing I just wanted to check out, and that is kind of cool. So if you're going to be looking further, you can see even having Sega 32X, and there is even some Sega CD. Oh yeah, going full Sega mode. Okay, that is one thing I wanted to check out, and that is the Sega 32X Resurrection. And that's the improved Doom version. Let's see how we can actually boot this thing up. Oh, there we go. Oh, that's kind of weird. Haha! Oh yeah. It's absolutely awesome that they implemented this into the system itself. But of course, you also have the ports for Doom that you can play, so you don't actually need to play the 32 weeks version. But it's just awesome that they put it on there. The only weird thing is, like with the 32 weeks, that my Y was my selection, but that's kind of weird. But moving on to the Sega CD, let's do that. But my favorite game that I'm always playing, you can actually see that it continues where I actually left. Like I mentioned before with Street Fighter, it's absolutely one of those very cool features that I find the overall experience so much more pleasant. I just realized that they added 2 Sega Dreamcast. That is a little bit of a downside. So again, I can actually like remove one of them, but you know that a couple of those things that I'm more like a little bit of a bummer, you know, the minor details they mess up. Or in my case, I need to just bitch on something, of course. But let's get into the Sega Dreamcast, because yeah, that is kind of cool. They were like a clamshell portable Dreamcast, and these things are getting more powerful than ever, and the overall emulation is getting better and better. However, this let's say, ooh, that was not good for my freaking ears, but also with the volume control, let's lower the thing because it is destroying my freaking speaker. Yeah, this is what I wanted to show you, is that it's not going to be perfectly emulated, because you can actually see that we're having some minor wicked tiny details missing or glitching. Ooh, and now we do feel the vibrator motor. That's cool. Gives the analog stick too. Time for some power stoned. Number 2. Where it's not like 100% spot on and we cannot do any upscaling. However, I think it's still going to be a lot of fun, you know, it's just enjoyable. This is one of those games that I've played so much back in the day, and I still love to play. Whoa, I can tell the rumble mode in this thing is super aggressive. You know, when I'm starting up these games, I just realized, like, oh yeah, I was just playing this game too. You know, I've been testing a couple of games. But Sega Saturn is, in my opinion, not like a really fun, overall, enjoyable experience. And this is one of the things that, you know, it's a little bit of a downside. So press like start, let's go back to the main menu, because yeah, Sega Saturn, some games will be playable, but some of them is going to be absolutely horrible, like the Sega Rally game. But, you know, when it comes to these old school games, that is going to be running fine, you know. And I think that is where these things will shine the best. Why is a video? What? So if you want to watch videos, you can actually do that too. But I don't want to focus too much on the old school stuff, because that still will be running just fine. It is kind of cool that we do have all kinds of DOS games. Oh, Commander Keen. Commander Keen. Man, I played that so much too on my first like Windows PC. So let's see if this ever even works. Oh yeah, and that is what I think it's so cool. That was exactly the one I had. Oh, Commander Keen. Yep. Buying those floppy disks. I'm going into full memory lane, man. Going to full memory lane. Now we're just at it. Let's take a close look at another game that is so legendary. Jazz the Jackrabbit. Oh man, that is another game I played so much. Having the demo with the first stage. But let's start the first stage. Let's get into the memory mode. Commander Keen. I want to say Commander Keen. Jazz the Jackrabbit. Oh, this game is way faster than I thought. And in the end, I think when it comes to these devices, this is just where it's all about, you know. Playing those really old school games. They're quite difficult to just play nowadays. Of course, we have DOSBox and the PC, but this is just so in such a cool, convenient way. Diddy Kong farting! Yes, that's what we're going to be playing today. So when it comes to N64, this is one of those the system that struggles, you know, on these devices. But you can actually see that where this is actually in launch title, the overall performance throughout the years is becoming better and better. But I must say that if you're going to be deep diving into the rabbit hole of N64, you will find a lot of stuff not playable. And we just need to have like a better overall performance, or at least like a powerful chip for that. We're still not there, but if you're going to be deep diving, you know for a fact there are games like Diddy Kong Racing are actually going to be playable. You can hear like the stutters in the beginning. There we go. Turbo boost. Okay, just wanted to see if we can actually pull it off. The joysticks are enjoyable. So when it comes to playing Diddy Kong Racing and with the tiny joystick, yeah, this is really cool. There is no way of making a quick load, quick save, because that is one of the features that is not accessible with every single emulator. So that's a little bit of a downside. But beside that, you can see that there's so much cool stuff on here, actually, what you can just play. And PlayStation 1 is one of those systems that still runs perfectly. So we're not going to be having any problems when it comes to playing these old school PlayStation games like Die Hard Trilogy. Yeah, so the question is always like, what are you going to be playing on these devices? Because there are so many devices out there now that can actually play PlayStation 1. And of course, the more powerful one can do a little bit of upscaling. That it's not going to be really necessary for, like say, in the game like this. But the music is... Oh, that's cool. The music is implemented. I love it. Also can use the analog stick. I just blew up the guy. Yep, because here's the machine gun. I love this part. Going full Rambo mode here. Eat a grenade. And of course we do have an HDMI connection on the back, what I mentioned before, and this way we can just easily plug it in. I didn't turn it on, and if you're going to be plugged in, it automatically reboots or at this point. So you do need to shut down your game first. Wow, the menu looks kind of clean to a point. I'm thinking like this is way too clean. So let's go to recent list. Let's try Die Hard Trilogy. I do wonder if it's going to be going back to my save function, automatic save. Yep, it goes there. So one thing is for sure is if you're going to be playing this game on, let's say, a massive 42-inch or something like that, then you're going to be maybe needing a little bit of an upscaler. But this 24-inch is just fine, you know. The music of this game, you should look it up. It's absolutely amazing. Can I blow up the car? Let's do that. I have no grenades. That's a shame. This part works just great. So let's see what happens if we're going to be pulling it out. And it will reset itself. That is pretty convenient. The Miyoo flip is one of those devices that really failed with the hinges and everything. What I understand of, they promised with the version 2 that is actually this model that doesn't have the same problems anymore. So with the improved software, it's not going to be magically having like superior, like say, overall emulation performance with many different devices. No, at this point, I think it's optimized. And you know, if you're going to be picking one of these things up, I think it will be always like the smart choice to actually buy one of these, let's say, better firmwares. But yeah, out of the box, I think it's still a very cool, capable device. The hinges, man, this feel. Whew. Thank you all for watching. Let me know in the comments what do you think of the Miyoo flip. Would you consider it? It would be great to see you in the next video.